Lately, I've been having a hard time cutting things with my knife. Once upon a time, this knife was so sharp, it would slice right through this paper, but now it barely makes a dent. I was able to cut razor paper thin pieces. Look at that, it's just going back and forth. Maybe eventually it will catch, but it is not cutting. Yeah, no, I'm just almost going back and forth. I think it eventually will catch, but definitely not a very, very sharp knife. Welcome back to another Jeff Reviews for you. And as you saw, we are looking at an item that Instagram made me buy, something we're going to use to sharpen our old, dull knives. You know what? Enough talk. Let's get right into this review. To try and revive our knives, I picked up this rolling tumbler knife sharpening kit. You know what? Hopefully it'll work. Unboxed, you have two main pieces. You have your Tumbler Rolling Knife Sharpener right here. Of course, you can see that it does spin. And then we have our magnetic knife holder. On the rolling sharpener, there are two pieces or two sides. The top right here is their diamond disc, and the bottom right here is their steel honing disc. If we take a closer look, you can see that this has rubber feet, or rubber wheels here, and they actually spin as you slide it up and down to sharpen your knife. That's pretty cool. The magnetic knife holder has two different size angles. There's a 15-degree on one side and a 20-degree on the other side. I should say that there's some feet to try to keep your knife stable. In reading through the directions, they say the 15-degree side is supposed to be for specialty knives, where the 20-degree side is for regular everyday use. The idea is you take the magnetic knife holder and hook it to the side there, and then you take your roller and start spinning it back and forth to sharpen that blade. As you see, just a little bit of that diamond disc is making connection with the knife, so it should sharpen it. Here goes nothing. We're just gonna roll this down. Oh, you hear that grinding? All the way to the end and back. Oop, I missed it. Try it again. All the way down and back. I'm pushing a light pressure on the rolling knife sharpener against the knife, but I can hear that grinding. Sounds like it's sharpening. There is not a specified number of times you're supposed to cycle through this for sharpening. It's really up to you and how sharp you want your knife. However, your initial sharpening could take up to 5 or 6 minutes, and every subsequent sharpening from thereafter should take about a minute. After you feel like you've done it enough on the sharpening diamond side, you can switch it over to the honing side and do the exact same thing, back and forth. When you hone with the helix disc, it should only take 3 or 4 passes. I was really surprised that the honing part is steel. I've always heard you're supposed to use ceramic, but then again, these knives are inexpensive, so maybe you'd want to use ceramic with your more expensive knives. This one comes with, well, steel. Are you confused which side of the magnet you're supposed to use, the 15-degree or the 20-degree? Well, I found this very cool trick online. Let's show it to you right now. Where they colored the entire blade in orange, so you can know if it's sharpening in the spot you wanted it to sharpen. So let's try that too. You can see our orange line all the way down. Now let's get our sharpener ready and see what happens. Up against the knife, down and back. I'm trying to make connection with the blade all the way down to get nice, even strokes. I will say one thing, as you can see here on the top, the orange went all the way down right up to the edge, but now it's not there because it's been sharpened. That's pretty impressive. I hope you can see that pretty well, but it's filed down nicely. I have honed it, but it looks almost like there's some shavings on there still, so I'm gonna wash it before I use it, but it looks a whole lot sharper. In the end, if you drew your Sharpie across your blade and that part filed out to a point, you picked the right side. If not, flip it to the other side and do it again. A newly sharpened knife. Let's see if I can cut some paper. Well, you know what? It definitely tore a little bit, but definitely much better than it did at the beginning. But the proof is when we slice the tomato. So we just finished sharpening and honing this knife, but I want to just do real quick and carefully wipe the blade. Look what the residue is left over here. So in my opinion, there's still stuff on this blade that you might not want to be cut up into your food, so make sure you wash your knives after you sharpen them. So tell me, what are your thoughts of this tumbler knife sharpener? Something you would use? Not so much? Too expensive? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. All right, let's try a nice thin cut from the side. Very little pressure. It's slicing down nicely. Much better than it did before it was sharpened. As I've been sharpening my knives, I've been noticing a few things. Every time I bring the Tumbler Rolling Sharpener down, the knife actually pulls away from the magnet just a little bit. So I don't know if that's like, maybe the magnet's not strong enough or if it's supposed to do that, but I do find that I have to put a little extra pressure just to make sure it stays in place. Here's what I'm talking about. I was sharpening this knife, came down to the tip, and as you can see, the handle popped away because the magnet is no longer sticking to the knife. In my opinion, if you bring the magnet to the center of the knife, it balances things out a whole lot better. I also noticed that you cannot use this on all blade heights. This is about 1 inch from the top here all the way down, and that is probably the smallest blade you can use. And even sometimes I think when I run the rolling knife sharpener by here, I believe it does hit the magnet, so be careful not to try to sharpen knives that are smaller than the magnet. I also found that any blade over 2 inches, well, it's really difficult to sharpen. So what I end up doing is I just lower that one down, I bring this over to the edge, and I can sharpen it that way. So if you can lower your blade down, you're able to use the sharpener. In this video, we were taking a look at the Tumbler Rolling Knife Sharpener. So what did I think of it? First things first, let's talk about that price point, $130, and that's where I have my biggest hang up. That's a lot of money, especially since you can find some other sharpeners for far less expensive. In the end, does it work? Absolutely. The knives that I've sharpened using this tumbler were absolutely very sharp, brought them right back to almost like new conditions. It doesn't take out those nicks that might be in the knives, but it makes them very, very sharp. I really appreciate how quick and easy it was to sharpen my knife. You know what? A few minutes and it was done, no problem, that I could hone it off on the other side. I will say one word of caution that I'll give to you is make sure you wash your knives after you're done sharpening and honing them. After I honed them for the first time, I used a paper towel and I wiped it across, and it was gray residue on that paper towel. In my opinion, man, that's not something I want to cut up any food with. Just to be cautious, make sure you wash your knives after you sharpen them. After sharpening about 8 knives, the parts still actually look relatively decent. I was worried that that sanding part with the diamonds was going to wear down real fast, but it looks like it still has a lot of grit, and when you feel it, it's a lot of grit there as well. Anyway, that was my full review of the Tumbler Rolling Knife Sharpener. If this is something that interests you, I will leave a link down in the description. This is Jeff with Jeff Reviews for You. As always, thanks for stopping by and hope you have a great day. I remember when I first reviewed this knife, I was able to slice some grapes so paper thin you could almost see through them. I tried this right before I sharpened it and it wouldn't even cut. Let's see, those are looking pretty good. Let's see if I can do one even thinner. Would you look at that? You can see right through it. Very cool. I really do appreciate that you stayed around for my entire review of this knife sharpener. You know what? We actually sharpened one of the knives that I reviewed a long time ago, and it was the Forged in Fire knife. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna link that review right up here, and I would love it if you would click on this link. And when you do, by the magic of the internet, I'm gonna join you right here. So go ahead, click it. It's safe, I promise.